Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use a command line argument using Visual Studio. So we're going to write a C++ program for that. The first thing we need to do is to create a new directory, and I call it temp. I create a new file that I call cmakelist. And you can see as a developer, I want to see the file extension. So if you can't see .txt when you do that, go to File and click here. You're a developer, you're a computer scientist, you should be in charge of that computer. Don't let Microsoft be in charge. Because really it's a pain that we can't easily create new files. So that's my source code with the CXX extension. And yes, I really want it that way. I want to call it that way. So now open your favorite text editor. So we create a project and I call it cmd line args. And there is a single executable here. And I call it cmd line, and the source code is test.cxx. And if I call it test.cxx, it's not because I don't have imagination, it's really because I wanted to illustrate that this name does not have to match this name. So this is the source code, this is executable. Right, that's all we need. We can close that. And now I'm going to open CMake. Change the path of the build. So where do we want to build it? Well, it'd be good to do it here. And this is where cmakelist is, so we want to have it here as well. And I'm going to create a bin directory here. I don't want the binaries to be with the source. It's bad practice to do so. And you know, if you have an assignment, I don't want your binaries. I don't want this. I just want these two. So it makes things a lot easier. So I want to use Visual Studio 16 and I want to use 64-bit. If you got the older version of CMake, it might be 32 bits by default. I really want 64-bit. It's good practice because I had my first 64-bit processor in 2006. So they've been around for a long time now. There is no reason why you should use 32-bit. And if you use 32-bit, when we use third-party libraries, like in the second semester, they may not work if they've been compiled in 64-bit and you are currently compiling in 32-bit. Things are not compatible. Different architecture. Alright, so there is a C compiler, this is a C++ compiler. We can configure, make, generate, and open the project. And when we go here, we should now have 3 different projects and 1 solution. So we're opening the solution basically. Right, when I start a new project, if I have one single exe, I will do a right click here and set as startup project. Because if you don't, if you try to run that, it's going to tell you, well, look, well, first of all, I did not write the code here. So let's write the simplest C++ program ever. Here we go. So I can build everything. And if I want to run from here, well, this project all build does not have an exe associated to it. So the system cannot find the, well, what to start, what to run. So do a right click here and set a startup project. Now press F5 for this triangle for start. And now I can run my program, which does nothing. So we want to use the command line. Int arg c char asterisk asterisk arg v. So these names are what people use most of the time. Here, however, you may see this. So in that case, this is an array on C strings, and this is a pointer on these strings. And an array is a pointer, so basically this is exactly the same thing. So we want to print in the terminal argc. So I want a nice output. So I'll do that. And well, it's not going to compile because I forgot to include IOStream. Right. And this is, the idea is trying to be far too clever. Right, compile again, still does not know them. Oh, I need to use the namespace std for standard. And now I should compile. And when I run it, it prints, well, nothing because I forgot to do this. argc. It should print 1. It printed 1, so great. CMD, I want to run it from here as well. Okay, temp /bin/debug. What's the name of my program? I forgot. CMD line. I don't have to type .exe. So if I add parameters here, so arguments, now it shows 2. 1, 2. 3. 1, 2, 3. If I wanted to do that here, well, I will have to do a right click, properties, and here is for release, and we could have different parameters depending on the configuration. So you can leave it for release if you want. It's because last time I used this, that's what it was. So I'll call it release here. And if I run, it's still 1 because this is debug, not release. Okay, so I could change to debug, and maybe I'll do debug here. Run it again. This is 2. Right, maybe we should do, well, let's see. What is that? argv. Run it. Compile, run it. And you see this is a pointer or array on C string. So this is a memory address. If you want to see the content of the C string, you need to do that. Retrieve the value from this array. And you can see this is the name of the program. So what the operating system has called. Because we're running the program from an IDE, it's using an absolute path. If I go back here, it's going to use a relative path. So it's just what we have here. I could use a absolute path, I could use a relative path, so debug / and you see this is the same here. Right, if you wanted to print all the arguments, we need a for loop. This is never going to be negative, so we can use an unsigned int. argc ++I, and then we could use curly brackets if you'd like. It does not matter because there's only one line in that block. And hi, and hi. And if I run this, well, I would like 0 here and 1 here. So we need to change that. So we need quotation mark here and here. And don't forget these. Right, compile, run. And this is what we see here. Right. So what else could we do? That runs well. From here we see all the arguments. Right, if you wanted the command line to be the same regardless of, well, if it's debug or release, so if you do it in release, see release, if you wanted it to be the same, you have to make sure that here you change so that it's all configurations. And you see here it says that they're different, so you can edit it. So I could say all config. Run it. In release, you see all config. Debug, you see all config as well. So now you know how to use the command line argument from the command line here, from the prompt, and also from an IDE such as Visual Studio. And in another video, I've shown how to do it using Eclipse under GNU Linux, and I also show how to do the same using Xcode on a Mac, on an Apple computer. That's it, bye.